Okay. Let's see. Okay. Hello and welcome, Mina. Hello and welcome, Samantha. Sorry you guys have to see me go like right into the camera. Hopefully you didn't have to see it my nose or anything. Thank you, ladies, for joining. I have posted it, so just going to give everyone an opportunity to drop in. I'm really looking forward to exploring what is here in this conversation today. And let's see. Okay. Oh, it's a flavor packet, and that's some sort of berry flavor. So I drink more water when it's flavored. It's like like it's just a sugar-free, calorie-free, basically, flavor packet. So it tastes really good. And now that it's summer, I'll be, now that we'll have fruit, like actual fruit, I'll be able to make some juice, homemade juice in the juicer, and I'll be drinking that more often. I'm really excited about that. And even having like fruit flavored water, which I could buy it right now, but just I prefer getting fruit from our local farmers instead of like some of the stores here, because it's just not the same. So it's definitely different. It's feeling so good today. It's been so cold. We had a storm that moved in, and we had like tornado watch, tornado warning, thunderstorm warning, and within less than 12 hours it dropped almost 45 degrees. Everything froze and we had snow. And now it's finally warming up again. So it's a little warmer today. I think it's like in the, I don't know, 50s, something like that. 60s, which is much nicer. So hello and welcome, everyone. I'm just giving everyone a moment to drop in, to tune in. I wonder, I don't think I can actually change. Yeah, okay, never mind. I was looking to see if I can change the title from here. Not change it, but I wanted to put a prompt on there, but I can't do that. Okay, so we're getting close to 5 minutes in. If you're watching the replay, I hope, I don't say I hope, gosh, that's such a bypass statement, but I am going to plan on having a comment in the comment section, which lets everybody know when the live is actually starting. I'm working on getting better at remembering to actually have that in. And of course, for those of you that are retuning back into the replay, all you have to do is just fast forward it to this point. So usually, more than likely on these lives, the replay or the actual live will start at around 5 minutes in. And that just gives people an opportunity to drop in, to see that it's live and, actually join. So I am going to open the chat back up. I do have the chat moderated right now, just to let everyone know. I'm going to work with this and see what happens here. I have the chat moderated to where only subscribers can actually communicate. This is because the chat ends up, I love communicating with people. Hello and welcome. I love exchanging, but this is a space of intention and purpose. And of course, because it's a public live, I'm opening up for people to drop into the chat and to be disruptive, disrespectful, to, basically operate from a space of projection. And they're not really here to pay attention. They're not here to really receive what's present. And I noticed this even in some of the comments on the shorts, where people are taking a clip of a few seconds, instead of the whole hour and a half, maybe even close to 2 hours of depth, and assuming the position that they know what's being said or what's being talked about, and or just simply judging from what they think that short represents. And of course, as you guys know, everything that we explore in this space is understanding how to speak from a space that is present, that is aware, and that isn't try to get it, if you're just here to get attention, then just go ahead and exit stage left, because that's not the way that this is going to work. So with that being said, my name is Éoaccí, and today what we are exploring is our communion with God, and what that gets to mean in a space of self-development. So what I'm sharing here and what is being explored here is looking into the nervous system, as always, and understanding how we have been conditioned and how we have learned through our behaviors, through our lifetime, how we have learned to operate through strategy. It's a survival mechanism. And the survival mechanism of strategy is my nervous system is always watching out for danger, and it's attempting to strategize the best approach. And when I'm operating from that stance of strategy, of what's the best approach, I'm not really experiencing myself as a confident human being. I'm not really experiencing myself as, let's say, having faith in my choices, because especially with what's going on in the world today, a lot of times we are so affected by our environmental cues. We see a war happening, we see people suffering, we see children being abducted, we see child molestation, we see animals being abused, we see all of these things. But the truth is that we can either allow, our nervous system is either going to restrict, and it's going to basically cut us into a space of deeper survival, or we can understand how it is we operate, what it is our nervous system is truly doing, and we can expand into a space of acceptance and faith. And, these are words that are thrown around a lot when we talk about faith, of course, talking about God. When we talk about spirituality, spiritual community, there's a lot, there can be a lot of avoidance that takes place in those conversations. And, that type of avoidance, we don't necessarily recognize how it's speaking through us. We can sit down, and this is something I witnessed in my own mentorship group, and the one that I lead a mentorship group, if you will, and then I also receive through a mentorship group. And the one I'm receiving through is my mentors are transitioning out of this very first 30 days, and we're going into 12 weeks. Everybody's dropping in. Those that are not going into the 12 weeks are sharing their appreciation, they're sharing their thanks. And what's really beautiful, what I love, is that my mentors drop in and reflect on the speech pattern, much like I do for those that are in my group. And there are a few of you here today. And what was really beautiful that I recognized in the very last message that they sent in that portion of the group was around someone that was speaking about the power of the group, right? Like, we're having these adult conversations and there's no sugarcoating, there's no fluff, there's actual exchanges that take place that look at who we really are. This is also what happens in my community. That's why I love this other mentorship group that I'm a part of. It's a direct mirror of my own practice, but it's also asking me to look closer at my own practice, which is exactly what it should be about. And so as this comment is being explored by the mentors and as the reflection is coming in, the one thing that was mentioned is how it is presented is coming from a space that sounds very good. I mean, it's very beautifully scripted. It's very beautifully written. So on the surface, it looks clean. It looks concise. It looks powerful. It looks impactful. But the subtle nuances in the speech pattern are at war with each other. And they're also, there's parts of the speech that are avoiding something. So I noticed this within myself, especially as I'm stepping into this 12 weeks and I'm deepening my connection with God. And as someone who's always served in spirituality, I've always assumed that I had a clear communication with God, that even my speech was a representation of that clear communication with God. And what I realized through these 30 days, and what I'm realizing even more, is that having the perception, having the awareness that I am God, essentially, that I am creating my reality, that I am the one that is determining what I experience. That's true. But I am not the God. I am an extension of God. And so as an extension, I'm playing the game of pretending for a little while that I'm not the infinite, that I am limited in some way. And that's a part of the game, is to pretend that we are something other than God. And at the same time, God is never separate from us. God is living through us and God is always present. But the one thing that is bestowed upon us is the willful willingness to explore life through God. And we become so adept at speaking in a way where it makes it seem like we are, when in truth we're not. That's how our words represent us in a form of manipulation, because they sound good. They're real good words, right? We're using really good spiritual formatted words. But again, the subtle nuance is there's not really a deeper level of understanding or awareness around what we're even saying. And all the times that I have communicated around myself being this source, this God, being in control of my reality, now I'm really beginning to understand what that means. But I had to first surrender the need to be seen as this ultimate source that didn't require God's help, because that's where I was coming from. I don't need God's help. I am God, right? Like, I'm not praying, I'm not communing with God, because I am God. Simultaneously, this is also why I wasn't working with mentors. I was mentoring, but not working with mentors, because for me, letting other perceptions, other dialogues in was still uncomfortable. Like, I would receive it in spurts, but a consistent receiving of that felt like it would challenge my stance of being that all-knowing God. But what happens when we start to allow people in, because we're always connected, people are always around, but the difference in being in communion with God, which then places you in communion with others from a stance of faith, means that you're no longer seeking community, you're no longer seeking communion, and you're no longer running from God, you're no longer running from faith, and you're no longer running into someone or something that you think is going to fill that void for you, because you agreed to pretend that you don't have a connection to God. That was the original agreement. That was the ultimate original form of separation. was to pretend through forgetting that that doesn't exist, that it's difficult, that somehow you're going to be out of control and your life will not have meaning if you follow the path of surrender into God. But it could not be furthest from the truth, of course. I mean, obviously, we took ourselves to that end of the spectrum so that we could experience what we need as a soul. So, what I realized about myself in that sister's comment and in their reflection, and what led me here today, was just the deeper realization. And even coming from those of us that are agreeing to be invested and involved in self-development and, better understanding ourselves, better understanding our nervous system, better understanding how we have always operated from survival, better understanding how we have constantly tried to strategize and control our reality, to now learning how to relax and release that chokehold and that grip, how to move from control and strategy into self-governance. And the only way that that really happens is through God. But how willing are we to consistently show up and see who we are through the lens of those that see us for ourselves? Those, that's always been the one thing that comes back to me through those that I work with, is the clarity of the mirror and the impact and the power, like the tone. I know that when I speak things, it brings stuff to the surface. That's the point. Because the one thing that has been undoubtedly a part of my journey is knowing who I am, to know thyself. So who am I? When I say something, what do I mean by it? Where am I speaking from? What version of me is controlling the conversation? And it's so easy. It's so easy to act like we know what we're talking about, because we can attend something such as this. We can show up and be a part of a live or a podcast or a recording, and we can listen and we can hear things, and because we think we know, we will take that information and pass it through the lens of the know-it-all self and say, oh, I know exactly what you're talking about. I know exactly what I'm doing. I know exactly what to do. But the whole point is that this is being offered to the version of you that doesn't act that way. It's being offered to the version of you that does act that way, but the version of you that acts that way is not going to understand it. But see, your all-knowing self hears it and is like, yeah, we need to pay attention. Not because we know exactly what to do with it, but because we're aware that we don't know what to do with it, and it's an opportunity for us to practice figuring that out. That's not strategy, that's self-awareness. Strategy is needing to follow instructions, needing somebody to tell you exactly what to do and exactly how to do it. And if it's not laid out that way, you go into a state of anxiety and fear. Always strategizing, which is the best choice? Which way do I go? What's going to give me the most return for the least investment of time and energy? And so we're in essence always running from effort. We want instant gratification. We want someone to tell us exactly what to do and exactly how to do it so that we feel comfortable. We don't like looking at ourselves. Not really. I don't care. For the very beginning, nobody really likes seeing who they are. They're going to say you do, but your rebuttal to that speaks far more clearly. Your reflection, like if I offer a reflection for someone and they can, it can come through in a way that talks about how clear it is and how much they understand and how much they see and how grateful they are. But let me tell you how gratitude really acts. It doesn't act through you saying you're grateful. If you're really and truly grateful, then you show up and you take what you have received and you consciously, intentionally are accountable with the information. And the next time you show up and reflect with me, the next time you show up and exchange with me, you have taken responsible and accountable action for what has been offered. That's gratitude in motion. That's me saying, you know what? There is nothing more important than me learning how to better act, how to better choose, how to better live, how to better express, and how to be in a greater state of emotional integrity. Thank you. So if you allow yourself, and this is the same, not just with gratitude, if you know, it's not just allowing yourself to practice true gratitude, but to practice true support. And as my mentors asked me to take a closer look at my relationship with God, I started to realize how difficult that was for me at first. It wasn't, no, let me reframe that. It's not difficult. That's a lie. That's an illusion. Nothing is really and truly difficult except for the belief that it is. It was uncomfortable for me to be with those words, God. Like, God is something other than me being God. Yeshua, Jesus, as something other than the ascended master homeboy that spirituality has made Jesus into. Religion has created such a deposition of sorts where there is a buildup of animosity and resentment around God and around Jesus or Yeshua, around source and universe. This is why a lot of people will say universe or source, but won't say God, because of the religious bias that exists. And if we start to peel back those layers and we see, like for me, I was brought up in the church. So my discomfort was coming through the beliefs that I had about my parents. Again, it always goes back to the relationship with the parents. The relationship through my parents was what founded my relationship with God. And so my relationship with my parents wasn't very stable. So therefore my relationship with God wasn't very stable. I did not have faith, not real faith. I thought I did. I wasn't really surrendering my outcomes. I was still trying to strategize and control my outcomes. I thought I knew best, right? I know better than God. God doesn't know better than me. That was my stance. And for me to surrender to Jesus, to Yeshua, as something more than like this ascended master homeboy would mean that there's something that he sees, he knows, he lives or has lived that I don't. There's something that Yeshua represents that I don't. That was uncomfortable because I've always acted like he was equal to me, right? Like I can channel Yeshua, I can channel Mary Magdalene. I've channeled them. That's spiritual bullshit and bubblegum. And it is living through the community right now of spirituality. Welcome and thank you. It's living through the spiritual communities because it's easier to act as if it's easier for the ego to act as if spirituality is a gateway to higher recognition than recognizing who you really are. And that's the pedestal that people stand on. It's the pedestal I stood on for the longest time in spiritual community, was look at me, look at who I can connect to, look at who I can channel, look at who da 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 da. And I really believed at one point that I was a part of the Rose lineage and just so much stuff. But every illusion is filtering a small portion of truth. Now, what is that? So the truth is that whole connection to the Rose lineage, the experience of Yeshua, Mary Magdalene, all the ascended masters as being equal is true because in the eyes of God, we're all equal. But there's a reason why their stories are being passed down through us. What is it about their relationship with God and humanity? What is it that they saw that we are still rejecting? Like my mentors say, what do they see that I don't see? What is it in their actions, in their choices, in their life story? What is it that they lived that we are so desperately trying not to? And the very first thing that it comes down to is their relationship with God. And if in a true communion with God, you are not worried about anything. Worry, like I shared with a sister in here, I said, one of the biggest things that I have been able to let go of in this process of recommuning with God on a deeper level is my fur baby, which is my child. Um, as the archetype, mother and child, I've always been concerned about his health, his well-being, worrying around whether he's okay, worrying about if he's getting sick, worrying about how much fear he's in, worrying about him, worrying that he's going to die. But I don't control that. None of us are in that. I'm going to share something in a minute. There's a slight nuance around death. One that's attempted strategy, control, and worry, which then leads to an impactful death, which then keeps a recurring incarnation through a level of lower consciousness. And then there's a freedom of death that comes through God. And I will speak into that. But I realize that every moment that I spend worrying about what happens to him, I'm not in gratitude for just being with him. Every moment that I'm worried about what's going on, I'm not living I'm not living at all, but I'm definitely not living in love with the moment. I'm not living in gratitude for just experiencing the moment. I'm not living in an abundance and a wealth of emotional integrity. I'm in worry, and worry is a deficit. And if I enter into it through Christ, through Jesus, and this is, again, it's not I'm not speaking in religious context, because you have to remember religious contexts are biased. I'm speaking from it. And that's what I mean by bias is I mean that not all religions, but if you can step into the relationship with God, with Christ, with even the Bible, without the lens of religious bias, then the clarity starts to unfold through you. But first and foremost, you have to be willing to know who you are to be able to understand how anything speaks to you. And that's why the relationship with your nervous system in communion with God is the most important act that you can fulfill within yourself. And entering in through, let's say, Christ, or what we say Christic consciousness, would be entering in through a direct channel without the noise. So like Yeshua, the homeboy, is noise. The Christ channel that penetrates through the archetype, I'm not getting caught up in the archetype of the sister. I'm not getting caught up in the archetype of the brother. I'm not getting caught up in the archetype of the mother. I'm not getting caught up in the archetype of the father. I see that they all exist through the direct channel of Christ, which is the clearest channel to God. That, I feel, is how we can connect in clarity. But first, we have to be aware, and we have to be real with what our religious bias are, if we have them. Some people have never even grown up knowing who Christ, Jesus, the Bible, Yeshua, God, like there's just not a background in that. Doesn't mean there's not a cultural appreciation or a cultural inheritance of some form of spirituality, but either way it goes, that's we have to go through the mud to get to the bare ground, right? So I'm going to check in these comments really quickly, you guys. Yeah, you're right, Mina. So Mina's saying that for years she only spoke about the universe and source because that's how it was approached through Qigong, what she teaches, but it feels different to connect through God. And that's true. It does. It was for me as well. I always said source or universe, but as I started saying God, I realized there was some resistance in my nervous system to saying the word God, because anytime I said God, I would say God, source, universe. But God standing alone, that was uncomfortable at first. That was weird. I was like, I don't know. I don't know if I want to just connect with God. I'm more comfortable with God, source, universe. But that was my first key, that it was necessary for me to connect to God, because there was something in my body wanting to reject it. That's wonderful, James. That's wonderful. And yeah, spirit, when we commune through spirit, which is our direct, also spirit, I would say spirit and Yeshua, spirit and Christ are one and the same for me, because spirit is the original fabric that the soul descends from. And so that's a At that level, we're beyond the archetypes and we're into greater unity. So at least from my experience where I am right now, that not saying it's right, not saying it's wrong, it's just where I experience. And then Mina says, yes, that is the true proof of communion with God, not worrying about anything. And I've seen this in friends that are really religious, even when it also came with the rigidity of belief. So yeah, they do make idols out of religion. And interestingly enough, of course, that's what they say, not to worship false idols. But even certain things like that, for the longest time, my belief around that was that it just meant that if someone says do not worship false idols, that meant don't worship like the old gods, like Zeus or Ares or Nike or Isis or Ra. But now that I can see now that I understand myself and I understand reality in a clearer way, I can actually go back, and I've been revisiting things in the Bible and looking at it from a metacognitive, metaphysical lens, which means that anything can be a false idol. If I worship food, it's a false idol. If I worship a certain belief, it's a false idol. If I worship anybody, if I worship a relationship, if I worship a friendship, if I am not willing to let go of that form of attachment, then that is why it's we would say a sin, because you're not sin would be a repetitive, recycled action that is simply not attentive or aware. It's unconscious, and it's acted out through survival, through strategy, through control. But repentance is doing the opposite. Repentance is saying, I consciously choose not to act that way any longer. I consciously choose to live in a righteous revolution of self-awareness. And so repentance is not that you just get down on your hands and knees and begs for forgiveness. Repentance is conscious action. You go the opposite direction of the karmic lineage that you have been recycling yourself through for eons. And when that happens, that's where the whole word chosen one comes in. When, we could say Yeshua was the chosen one, right, in his lineage, because there was an awareness of who he was, what he was. There was no attachment to any kind of physical wealth. There was no attachment to religion, because he chose differently. That's why he was persecuted in the story. Now, I feel like we don't have just one timeline, just one storyline for anything, including the story of Yeshua. That story can be seen through a multitude of lenses and can be received in a multitude of ways, just like anything. And we can receive more and more and more if we allow it. And so with that being said, in our communion with God, if we choose to show up and allow it and accept it, it gets to be our gateway into surrender. When I surrendered to God and I said, you know what, I don't want to worry about Bruiser's death anymore. I don't want to worry about my parents' death. I don't want to worry about where money's going to come from. I don't want to worry about anything anymore. So I surrender to you, and I choose to show up, and I choose to be a servant of yours, which means I am going to serve consciously. And if anyone, just by the way, let me say this, for those of you that are here, especially if you just dropped in, and if you've been here, I am not speaking in a religious context. This has nothing to do with religion. I am not concerned with a religious reflection. It has nothing to do with what I'm saying. And if you pay attention to what I'm saying, you will see that that's not the route I've been taking or the route I'm going. And if you're an atheist, that's fine. But I would invite in an opportunity to just simply play in the opportunity of exploration. I used to be an atheist, but there's no such thing as nothing. Nothing. There's just literally no such thing as nothing. And that's literally, but at the same time, in an atheist belief system, a lot of the comprehension from an atheist belief system is actually, it's not like, I feel like people, like, I know, I believe that if I was atheist, I was somehow like rebelling against society, against religion, against God. I was rebelling. I was doing something that was like important, impactful, and like I was going the opposite direction of everybody. My life was also, and the most chaotic, that I didn't understand. I didn't know who I was. I thought, and this is a very interesting thing, like we can read books, we can retain information, and we can think, because I say this all the time, we think because we read books, we think because we know about religion, we think because we've read all these things, absorbed it, and we can regurgitate it, that we somehow have a comprehension around what we're talking about. Comprehension is more than just retaining information. It's an application of self-exploration. This means I've lived something that I'm speaking about right now. I've lived it, I've applied it, I'm endorsing the experience. I have understood myself through the process and come out the other side and have learned what it means. I've learned how I've assigned meaning. I've learned why I believe that way. There's nothing wrong with atheism. There's nothing wrong with religion. I'm simply inviting an opportunity to recognize what that is if you're going to claim it. Just like spirituality, why do you identify with it? I don't identify with religion. I don't identify with spirituality. I don't identify with nothing. That's the key. Because religion is a war of one belief versus another. It's taking the deeper message and distorting it through because the inner self does not feel worthy, and it is attempting to battle like, this belief is better than this one. Jesus is a false God. Hebrew God's real. This God's false. This God's real. That's just simply a war of bias. Neither are full truth, neither are non-truths. They hold some framework of truth, but that truth has gotten lost along the way. Because every individual perception first begins with ego until the self rediscovers its real and true connection, which is through God. God is not represented through religion. God is the representative of creation. And because creation is all around us, we can't say that there is nothing. I mean, it just doesn't make any sense. And the words that you use, I want you to pay attention to how you identify with them. Because that's essentially, and you guys, when we talk about, we either talk about these things, we talk about what we know, or we share from within a deeper state of awareness. So I want you to just use this as an opportunity to listen to what it is you're receiving and how you're receiving it. The communion with God is something greater than the word. It's the ability to listen. That's true communion. When you can be in a conversation with someone that believes completely different from you, that is hell-bent on proving their side. Politics, religion, even relationships. If you can be in that space and be at peace within yourself and at peace with what is being said, you're in communion with God, because there's no bias. You don't have to give an opinion. And here, I'm not offering opinion. I'm offering my personal experience of what has happened through me as I have begun to rekindle my connection in communion with God through a process of understanding who I am, the deeper I go into knowing who I am, the closer I get to God. And any true relationship, as my mentor said, I have 2 male mentors, and one is married, one is not. And what his wife said was, when they entered into their relationship as friends, they were both not in communion with God. They were going to spiritual retreats, like exploring different outlets of expression, and both of them very highly successful people. My male mentors, millionaires, multimillionaires, works with billionaires. I mean, these people have made it and then lost it and then made it again. And they are very well respected, very well known. Worked with some of the most well known, shall we say, mentors in the world. And the one thing that they said that was offered to them from their mentors that they passed down to us is the relationship with God. It was the one thing that was always missing. Even when the money was there was still chaos. Even when they had the millions, there was not inner peace. There was outer shinies, there was outer success, but there was not inner success. Yes, that's where I'm going, Mina. So good question. So having the physical manifestation of items, or shall we say false idols, if that's the only reason why you want to manifest something in your life, if the only reason why you want to experience things in your life is because you just want it, if there's no deeper anything under that, it's going to be very difficult to truly enjoy life. There's always going to be something that happens. There's always going to be some form of chaos that's disruptive, because internally, the nervous system, we can all make money. We can all buy things. We all have the capacity. We are all equal in that way. Anybody can get a job. Anybody can make money. Anybody can buy stuff. Not everyone that has that money, that seems like they have it all together on Instagram and on Facebook, a lot of these really highly successful people, from what I've learned personally through those avenues of exploration and working with them, it doesn't mean that they have a happy life. So when we've bought everything we want to buy, when we've slept with everyone we want to sleep with, when we've gotten all the attention we want to get, when we can eat whatever we want, drink whatever we want, do you think that that's, at the end of the day, do you think you go to bed really fulfilled? No. Because through every one of those avenues, through the sex, through the alcohol, through the drugs, through the food, through the money, through the buying, the purchasing, it's consumption. Even just being on your phone and scrolling continuously is an act of nervous system dysregulation that's seeking something. It's a desperate act of attempting to soothe. It's the nervous system that's so used to chaos and dysregulation that it's trying to find an outlet. It's looking for something. It's like looking for the next best thing that's going to give it a high. It's got to feed the rush. It's got to feed the high. It's got to continue scrolling. It's also why we get addicted to having surface level opinionated conversations, because it's very easy to just say something without pausing and considering what it is you're saying and why. That requires presence, and presence is a daily act of reinforcing your own awareness. And one of the things I realized is that I used to talk a really big game. I have worked with mentors that seem like they have it all together. They have a lot of really good presentation. They got a lot of money, planes, $1 million, multi-million dollar businesses, multi-million dollar businesses. But when I got into the deeper connection, it was like chaos. My nervous system did not feel safe or regulated in that space, because the focus for them was on how many more people they can bring in, not being with the people that are present with them already. Now that's where my two most recent mentors came in, and they're the ones that reintroduced God into the conversation. Now that tells you something. And now my nervous system in just 30 days, and I do this work, you guys. I do somatic work. I apply somatic work. I apply pattern recognition. There are those here today in my groups. I mean, we do deep work. But one thing that I was not bringing through was the communion with God. And there were still parts of my life. I mean, they were changing, they were transforming. They've been going pretty good. But underneath, there was still something. There was still something that just felt like it was just not clicking. I still would have things like I wasn't repeating cycles in the same way, but there was just something there that I knew didn't feel complete. And the one topic that was never coming through was God. What is your relationship with God? What is your belief around God? What are your relationship with your parents and their belief around God? Where did you begin your beliefs around God? Where does that begin in your family line? What was inherited? Because at the source of it all is God. And from there are the beliefs of God. And if we're not aware of it, we're missing a vital component to the entire existence of us all. And so what do most people do when they sit down to meditate? They're looking for something. They're meditating as a means to an end. They're not meditating with intention. And intention, what for me now is prayer. It's just simple thanks. I'm not looking for something. I'm not trying to figure anything out. I'm not trying to solve a problem anymore. I'm not searching to understand. I'm not searching to regulate. I'm not trying to have it all together or be seen as someone that meditates even. I'm just talking to God. Like, man, thank you. I am so grateful for this life. Like, I am so grateful. And at first I didn't even believe my own words, but that's the whole point of reinforcement. It was a little uncomfortable and it felt weird. And I feel like we tend to overthink the whole thing. Like, am I doing this right? Am I praying right? Am I asking right? But what my own mentor said is, don't let it's not, and I will say this too, it's not about right or wrong. It's just about stepping into it, period. And then step into it from a space of not what you need or not what you want from God. You don't want to go into it with what you want. What is God blessing you with? Hey, God, my will is your will. Whatever it is that you have for me, I am here to receive it. I'm not asking you to give me something specific, because then that would mean that I'm trying to control the outcome still. That I think that whatever I want is better than whatever you have planned for me, which means that I'm still doing it to get something out of it. And that's why we go into the relationships, the partnerships, the drugs, the alcohol. We're coming in from a nervous system that's dysregulated, that's trying to get something out of something because we don't feel safe and secure. When you start surrendering and you start understanding what that relationship is, because it's not just that communion with God that's going to regulate your nervous system. You have to take accountable, responsible action. Right. And this is why in my own groups, we do pattern recognition. I give assignments. There's somatic practices, right? So there is a consistent application of accountable awareness where you're being asked to follow instructions, right? You have guidelines, you have rules, you have responsible application. But you add that along with the communion with God, and your nervous system will transform in ways that you could never imagine. And so Mina had asked, she said, I'm wondering, how does coming into communion with God and surrendering all of us relate to the whole manifestation and being the creator of your life? Could you speak into that? Because she said, we have these ideas about what will make us feel happy and abundant, even the idea that only when there's a certain amount of money coming in, we are in true flow and got it figured out. But we can be provided for in an abundance without needing it to show up through money. It can come through all kinds of avenues. Absolutely. Absolutely. So with that, with manifestation, and of course, I know I've spoken into it a little bit here. We are already well equipped. We already come with a frequency of attraction. at our core in communion, let's say in communion with true surrender and true acceptance, we will bring in everything that is already ours. We don't have to try. We don't have to force it. But the one thing that is necessary is that we are responsible for everything we are trying to control so that that doesn't get in the way of what is already ours. Most of the time, people are trying so hard to manifest a certain outcome that they're not aware of why. And we have to, and it's the process of going through our relationship with everything. This is why somatic application, right? The transformation of your nervous system is absolutely necessary. And I know at some point for everyone, maybe not this lifetime, but one lifetime, everyone's going to go through that process. It's necessary. We all have to inherit, the goal is to inherit our essence from a state of clarity. That's how we inherit the heaven on earth. That's how we inherit the world. That's how we become a servant of Christ, of God, truly. How we become a conduit of heaven on earth is that we're not trying to control what that looks like. So I first have to let go of anything that I feel like I have to have. Whatever it is in your life right now that you feel like you can't go without, that's a sign. It could be a relationship. It could be a location. It could be anything. It could be a thought process. A lot of times people really want to hold on to the thought like, okay, so in like, let's say self-development, in the process, in the circles of self-development, most people think that when they reach a certain point, they have it all figured out. There's no more healing, there's no more transformation, or they get stuck on certain things like there's no such thing as healing, which is technically true, but because they think there's no such thing as healing, they will get so stuck on that anytime they hear somebody say the word, they will feel like they need to correct it. Like, there's no such thing as healing. Why are you saying that word? Why are you using that word healing? There's no such thing as healing. Instead of simply allowing that word to represent whatever it does in the exchange without trying to control the way the other person says it. Also understanding that if that exchange is happening through conscious agreement, like in my mentorships, if I can sense underneath the words are a pattern that are clinging to the need of something, I will reference that in the reflection and say, just go back, pay attention to what you're saying, pay attention to how you're saying it, and revisit what this means right here when you say this, so that you can have a better understanding of why you chose to use those words, because you may think you know what you mean, but there's a subtle nuance in your words, and you're presenting it really well, but you're also simultaneously avoiding part of yourself while you're speaking. So something like that is an ability to see the word, to accept the word, to love the word and the person speaking it, and return the reflection with care, support, and clarity without trying to control the words. So even just something as simple as that, people will get hung on in their process of self-development. They think because they know that a word isn't, like, they've learned that we don't necessarily heal, that we are already existing in a state of healing. We just consistently connect to that deeper or reconnect to that deeper, but they'll get caught up on needing to correct that, right? Or people that believe that they have to go to retreats, or they have to go to, they have to do certain, just that taking in certain modalities to heal their body, just certain things like that. And they are not willing to let go of it. It could be a friendship, a relationship, a partnership that is there to just simply teach you something about yourself, and it's not meant to remain, but you're not willing to step away because you're afraid of what the other person is going to think, or you're too worried about what you're going to say, instead of just standing in your presence, standing in the courage of your communion with God and clearly declaring that this is not right. Like, this is not, and I will no longer say that it's not serving me. I'll say that it's not serving my design through God, because my design through God does not show up needy. So this is not a communion with God. This is a communion with what I think I need. And if I'm communing with what I think I need, then I'm not in communion with God, which means I'm not in faith. I'm not in surrender. I'm clinging. I'm holding on to, I need it. I'm desperate and I won't let it go because I'm afraid. I'm trying to manipulate what I think it's going to look like, right? I'm trying to manipulate the outcome. I think if I can just do things differently and get a different outcome, then I can hold on to it. But that's a habit that's addictive because I have to have it. And if I have to have it, that's not God speaking, that's my ego speaking. And so if I have to have it, if I have to do it, if I have to continue it, if I will not let go, I'm not in communion with God. Doesn't mean I'm not. It means I am not intentionally, purposefully choosing my communion with God. I'm choosing my communion with what I think I need based on what I want. And there's so many other opportunities for me other than that, but I'm not allowing the other opportunities because I think that that is all that I need. And you guys, the truth is that we all have a dysregulated system until we don't. And we've all grown up and we've all formulated our beliefs and our perceptions from a nervous system that doesn't know what it feels like to be safe. There are moments we've experienced safety, but we don't focus on them enough. That's not our normal. We've had moments of regulation, but we don't choose. We're not reinforcing the regulated state enough. We're enforcing the dysregulated state. And I say this every time, and I will continue to say it, until we have completed the relationship with our parents, then every relationship will be incomplete. And how many times do you turn to another person when you could turn to spirit or God? How many times do you seek instant gratification when you could just stop and slow down? This is something with everyone I work with. It happens every single time with every single person without a doubt. Every single person is in urgency. They're running around trying so hard. They're either trying so hard to be seen as successful. They're trying so hard to be seen as understanding. They're trying so hard to be seen as having it together, while simultaneously, internally, it's chaos. It's very easy to come on a social platform and just vomit your lack of self-respect, because how you communicate with others shows the relationship you have with yourself. A person that is not in worthiness within themselves will blatantly disrespect others. They will judge, they will project, because internally the safety isn't acknowledged. The communion with God isn't present. They don't see other people as worthy because they don't see themselves as worthy. And worthiness has been categorized as what makes them feel good, or what makes them happy, or they get what they want in a specific way. And if only certain things or certain people can do that, then the rest aren't important. Instead of seeing everyone as equal, we're all human, and none of us are better or worse than the other. It's simply the perception that lifts it up or brings it down. So welcome, Jamie. And for anyone else that has joined, welcome. So one thing that I began to realize is that when I was manifesting from a space of belief that, oh, I'm God, I'm in control of my universe, I'm in control of my reality, which again, it's a partial truth. It's not that it's not true. I wasn't willing from that space. I'm trying too hard to control the outcome. Now, obviously, I am the creator of my world. I am the frequency. I am the broadband signal of my reality. I create from whatever I allow. Or let me reframe that. God has created everything. I experience the reality that I allow. Everything is already created. So when I dropped myself down from the pedestal of the creator, now I am just simply a creative essence. I am a sparkle of the diamond that is God. And I choose to shine. I choose to use my voice to share my wisdom. I choose to share what I experience and what I explore. I used to hold this back, and you guys are probably aware that I'm bringing more lives through than usual because I had gone through a period of feeling like it wasn't good enough, that I needed to format it in a certain way for it to be important. I felt like I had to frame it a certain way for it to be impactful instead of just showing up and being authentic and just sharing myself. That's my God-given talent. That's my God-given right. We all have a voice for a reason. It's how do you choose to use it? Because if you use it to tear other people down, you're not really tearing them down. You internally are already down, and you're just trying to bring others down with you. So your voice represents all of you, even when you don't think it does. I have those that are here that work with me personally, they can attest that they've tried many times to hide who they are in their self-reflection. They've tried very hard not to be seen in a certain position, right? And they've tried very hard to prevent the mirror from reflecting something about them that they know they need to see. But the mirror always sees it. And when you're no longer afraid of who you are, you're no longer afraid of who everyone else is either. You realize that when you start to rediscover your own safety and security, you're no longer looking out there for something to fill that void. You're no longer looking to a relationship to try to give you what you have forgotten is already available through God. You want love? God, that's the only source. You want support? God, that's the only support. That's the only true support. Whatever it is you want connection? There it is. Because what's coming back to you from out here is you. When you come into a cord of connection, anyone you interact with, anyone you share your voice with, you're entangled with on some level. And that entanglement is going to be an entry point of belief. You go in through your belief, you meet at a likewise belief. And when you meet at a likewise belief, then guess what happens? You're just going to be back and forth, sharing the limitation of the belief. But when you enter into a communion with God and then you allow yourself to use those cords as a receptivity of self-awareness, you're no longer pushing yourself out onto others because you need others. You're allowing others to come to you from a space of deeper communion. You're no longer talking about people. You're no longer talking about things. You're sharing from within yourself. That type of communion is sacred because it's intentional. See, think about how many times you have a conversation in a day and it's not intentional. You're just talking and you're sharing. And of course, sex is the ultimate entanglement of your psychic energy, if you will, your thoughts, your beliefs. You outsource it in a chunk, in a momentary exchange, and you intertangle and entwine and exchange. Let's say a smaller aspect of that, a slightly lesser aspect of that happens in conversation. And yeah, and what I would say about like when you offer your fears up to God, absolutely surrender them and simultaneously take responsibility for them. Because if God was just going to fix everything for us, then we wouldn't be, what's the point? God isn't going to fix you. But God is going to hold you, support you, love you unconditionally while you learn about yourself. Not because you're going to fit, you're not broken. You're not, I don't want to say it, let's reframe that. You're not fixing yourself, but when you look to God to fix something for you, you're in that strategy. You're in that I need to control what's happening, or I need someone else to control it. So absolutely step up. I did that I've been doing that recently, saying I surrender. And what that is a gateway. So instead of me going into a conversation in my mind or in physical reality instead of going into a conversation from a space of feeling like I need to fix something, whether it's in my mind or otherwise, I go into communion with God and I say, okay, I surrender myself to this moment. I surrender myself to God. I surrender the worry. I surrender the control. To me, that's my entry point, just like forgiveness. Forgiveness for me isn't an act of saying, oh, well, somebody did something wrong. They did something to me and I'm just going to forgive them, or I'm going to forgive myself because I did something wrong. I don't see it in that way. Forgiveness is simply a gateway into deeper acceptance because there is no wrong. So if there's no wrong, then there's no right. There's only positive and negative, light and dark, no good, no bad, no right, no wrong. Those are illusions. Then nobody's done anything bad to me. I've just harmed myself through the perception. So forgiveness frees me of that. Forgiveness is an opportunity to just let go of that need to hold on to blame. So I go into and I reinforce the forgiveness. And I do want to say compassion. Compassion and forgiveness are learned. We have to remember that we don't, just because we say things doesn't mean we fully understand them. So I used to act from a space of thinking I knew what forgiveness was, thinking I knew what gratitude and compassion was, just because I had an idea, I had a concept. But when it lives through you, then you truly understand like what that is. You can throw the words around all day long, like even control being an illusion. How is it an illusion though? How? What are the experiences that have been learned? Just like, what is forgiveness? How is forgiveness really a gateway? So if control is an illusion, or even forgiveness being a blessing, when I experience forgiveness as a blessing, I realize that no one was ever at fault, and I am at peace within that. I'm no longer going into the thoughts of the other person. I'm no longer running to the blame game to place it on someone else. And at the same time, we have to be aware that that doesn't mean you ignore the blame. That's not forgiveness, and that's not a healing process. As an observer, I'm aware of all the resentment. I'm aware of when I want to go into attacking another person, right? I'm aware of when I get in traffic and I get really pissed off, that's a part of me that is wanting to blame the situation and the person. I'm aware of that, but I have a choice. Do I want to act from within it, or do I just want to acknowledge it and say, okay, I accept that part of me wants to act out of anger and aggression, but I don't have to. We never want to be seen as someone that can't feel those things. So when you step into forgiveness, do so without fear of feeling and without fear of being seen. Step into recognizing that choice is an illusion control is an illusion, by recognizing why that is for you. How have you applied it in your life where you can recognize it? What are the examples? What are the facts? And if we gain a deeper understanding of that, we start to live our life with greater clarity of being the Word. I'm sure you guys have heard that. I live as the Word, I am the Word, and the Word is God. So if the Word is God, then I am in communion with God, and every word I speak is coming from a deeper awareness of my communion with God, which is surrendering my life. And therefore, if I surrender my life, it doesn't mean that I am not in control. It means that I am not attempting to exhibit control. So with that being said, and I'm not here to play a word game. You can say Christ, you can say God. To me, they are one and the same. Christ is a channel to God. Either way, they are in the same boat for me. So with that being said, the point is when you are aware of what you're saying, because you can say Christ is the word and we obey the word, but are you speaking from religious upbringing, or are you speaking from a deeper application of understanding what you're saying through the process of reviewing a life outside of the Bible from a perception of understanding who you are within yourself before you speak from that context? I understand what is written. And either way, it doesn't mean that I have to repeat it exactly in that context to exhibit a faith of awareness. So with that being said, when you understand what you're saying, there is a part of you that is in deep communion through faith, and it's in deep communion with self-awareness. And okay, bye. And when you're in deep awareness with yourself, you have gone through a process of not just jumping on and just like just shouting and throwing words out and just saying it's this, it's this, it's this, it's this, it's this. You guys, for those of you that are just now showing up, I am not speaking from a religious context. I'm speaking from a context of communion with God that comes from a deeper space of self-awareness. Okay? So for those of you that want to come in and want to start trying to preach and want to start offering your religious context, I honor you, I see you, and I love you, but that is not what is being described or not what is being expressed and exchanged here. I know what is said. I'm not here to just repeat what is said. If I just walk around and repeat what the Bible says and I don't understand what my actual relationship is with myself, and therefore my relationship with God, then it's just words. I don't know the deeper meaning. Meaning is assigned in a multitude of ways. We all have assigned meanings that we have adopted throughout our life. We think we know what something means just because we've always heard it, we've always said it, and we've always received environmental cues around it. I could quote the Bible all day long in perfection, but it doesn't mean that I operate in a conscious, intentional, and accountable way through my choices and actions. So I'm not here to debate religion, and I won't. What I am offering is an invitation to understand who you are, and to know thyself is to know the communion with God. Knowing who you are opens the doorway to that communion. So but that also doesn't mean you can't go into the Bible and discover the deeper messages, because that's what it's really about. If you're just taking the word, and if you're just repeating the word, then you're parroting a scripture. That level of consciousness isn't fully aware. When you can go into the scripture, when you can live the word because you understand the deeper message, and that message speaks to you because God is speaking to you through the scripture, that's different. So you can be in communion with Jesus, with Christ, with God in a way that is also in deep communion with the safety and security of your nervous system. And that's where it all begins. We take in so much information around this subject, you guys. It's very, very easy to just repeat things. My invitation is to go deeper than that. So, okay, maybe I didn't say it exactly as it's been taught. Maybe I didn't say it exactly as you practice it. Maybe I didn't say it exactly, as the book. That doesn't mean that it doesn't have a deeper message in there for you. And that was the point. If you listen to the deeper message, you're going to get something out of it other than what you think I should be saying, or other than what you think the truth is in the word. There's multiple layers of truth in every word, and that is what you believe. So what is good and evil? What is evil and good according to the word of God? I do not, this is something I touched on earlier in the live here, but there is no such thing as good and evil in the context that people believe it, just like there's no such thing as like heaven and hell in the context that people believe it. It's based in a spectacle of truth, but obviously there are stories and beliefs and ideals around it. The things that actually exist are positive and negative, light and dark. People have attributed a lot of negativity to darkness, just like they've attributed a lot of hierarchy to light. People have attributed a lot of darkness to hell, just like they have to heaven. But light and dark, heaven and hell, are two separate, they're not necessarily the same thing. It's all based on you. So do I believe in heaven and hell? No. Do I believe in light and dark? Yes. What do I believe in light and dark? I believe within light is a perceived awareness that's intentional. So when I am illuminating, I'm aware. That to me is heaven, pure awareness. To me, pure awareness is the essence of God. When I am aware, I am in a state of consciousness that is attentive, it's observing, but it's not reacting. And when I exist in heaven on earth, so to speak, I am in a consistent state of attentive awareness. My nervous system is at peace. It is anchored. It is grounded. I am openly receptive. I'm not pushing, denying, rejecting. I'm not defensive. The inner hell would be the struggle. It'd be the need to react. It would be the nervous system that is dysregulated. You don't have to go anywhere to experience either. They're both available. And I feel like we all act from a state of our own inner hell until we discover regulation. So for me, when we talk about new earth, heaven on earth, like what does that mean? Obviously, there's a lot of stuff out there. And as I have consistently gone through the process of living the spiritual bubblegum and all of that, I used to have a very metaphysical context around it, but now it's a lot simpler than people want to believe. Right now, I'm living in my own heaven. I really am. I feel my nervous system is very balanced. It's very harmonious. It doesn't mean I don't have moments where reactivity is available, but I've also chosen to consciously show up every single day as a responsible actor in my own reality. So the one missing puzzle piece that I really just started bringing back in was that relationship with God. So if I choose confusion, I go deep into my own hell. If I simply choose acceptance and I pause and I slow down, then I choose awareness. Awareness is accountable action. Unconscious awareness is inattentive. It's all over the place. It's trying to prove a point. It's reactive. It's strategizing its next move. It's only paying attention to what's being said so that it can have a reactive answer. It's not really receiving the message. It's reacting to the words. So that is a dysregulated nervous system that is attempting to protect itself and is environmentally always not only reactive, but the environmental cues are always creating some heightened state of focus. Like my environment's keeping me out here, right? Like that. Like I'm looking for danger. I'm looking for danger. Everyone's a suspect, right? Something bad's going to happen eventually. There's a deeper sense of impending doom. And the process of stepping into a nervous system that's regulated is more simple than people believe. But the layers that you will peel back will reveal the depth of confusion and complication that you have been living in. And this is what I see all day, every day with my clients, with my group, is even when there is an invitation to free themselves from their own inner hell, that need, that neediness that comes from those first moments in childhood, the first perceptions of the need not being met, they still don't want to let go. It's like when you're trying to take a pacifier from a toddler or a binky, you know, or a blanket, and they don't want to let go of it because it's been there the entire time. It's a sense of safety. It's a sense of pacification. And just because we say we're adults, just because we say we're grown, it doesn't mean that we are. When you're grown, you're in a regulated nervous system. And if you have not gone through the process of nervous system regulation and completing the relationship with your early childhood memories with your parents, you're not grown. You're still that child. You're still acting out your unmet needs. You're still clinging to hope. You're still desperately seeking attention. You're still looking for that love that you think is going to fill that void. You're still trying to feed the subconscious addiction. And, you know, you do things like this, like, you know, trying to get attention. And that's someone that literally goes through life unconscious and like, just look at me, 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 look at me. I need attention. I need attention. I need attention. And I did the same thing for the longest time. I mean, I used to be a troll big time. I used to troll people hardcore. I used to act out from sarcasm, and my whole modality was, there was a small group of people that I had around me that loved that type of attitude. And I felt safe and secure with knowing that I could go and talk about what I did with them and they would hype me up on it. And I could feel good about trying to make other people feel bad. And when I would try to make other people feel bad, hey, Omkar, welcome, my friend. When I would try to make other people feel bad, it was because I was so insecure. I felt so unworthy. I really hated my life. I did. My pictures might not have looked that way. I have a client here right now that was looking at some of my pictures on Facebook, and she was like, oh my gosh, you look so happy. Like you're having so much fun. I was like, oh sis, let me tell you what was really happening. I was on drugs. I wasn't happy. I was high. That's an illusion. That's why social media is so deceptive. Just because there's a smile, just because there's a dance video on TikTok, just because a person has a BMW or a mansion does not mean that peace and happiness are there. It doesn't. Social media has become a place where you can literally look at every aspect of life and somebody's got it perfected, right? Their business model, their house, their children in private school or whatever, their way that their kitchen looks, the way that they cook, the way that their food looks, their outfits, you know, their yoga routine, their spiritual routine, like everything looks so good and perfect. And I'm not saying that it isn't for some. I'm saying the majority, it's not. Thank you, Omkar. I appreciate that. That's right. You've been through that and seen it too. And just a few years ago, you guys, I was still on drugs. I was still bypassing. And now I lead other people. I don't lead them. No. I am a mirror so that when people choose to show up and consciously, intentionally devote to something greater than this version of themselves that's trying to control everything, I'm just simply the mirror that reflects back to themselves. You could say I guide by modeling what that looks like. I'm a modeled comparison, I guess, comparison in a good way. But you guys, we are so used to being able to ask. How many times have you asked someone for help when you know deep down you weren't really looking for help? You were looking for a solution. You were looking for someone to tell you what to do. How many times did you reach out hoping that just because you asked that somehow someone has to give you whatever it is you're asking for? We don't realize this is something I'm learning about boundaries. And it's, again, come through my communion with God. It really is. It is. And it's a tough process. It's also, you guys, I want to reinforce, it is also a simple, and it can be tough because you're looking at yourself. And we're so used to looking at ourselves. I want to say this really quickly. We're so used to looking at ourselves in our own head. I speak to a lot of people that talk about they're doing the work. And I say, okay, well, who are you working with? Oh no, I mean, like, I'm going and I'm meditating and I'm sitting with myself and I'm doing this practice with myself. I'm like, oh no, that's You're not seeing yourself. You're not doing the work, because if you do not have someone there that's showing you yourself from a relational perspective, everything in this reality is relational, and it began with your parents and it branched out from there. If you're doing it on your own, you're not seeing who you are. You're seeing who you want to see. You're seeing, which doesn't mean that part of the process isn't important. But if that's all that's being applied, if you're not allowing in someone that can mold the mirror, hold it, reflect it with love, care, attention, and intention, then you're always going to, there's going to be a part of you that's still avoiding, or many parts of you that are still avoiding seeing who you are. That's why I have a free space. I invite people to step into this. I want people to step into this. I want you to see what it's like to explore that alongside others. It's exceptionally powerful, but you need to do it from a space that it's more than just the excitement of doing something new. It's got to go deeper than that. It's got to be deeper than that. It's got to be about a communion with something greater than yourself. That's why I'm introducing God today. And that's a part of it. So it's, we are capable of a great many things that we aren't even aware of. Because where's our awareness going? Our awareness is going into the bypass. It's bypassing our power. It's going into worry. It's going into concern. It's going into impending doom. It's going into judgment. It's going into the assumption that someone is going to come along and save you. And not even God's going to save you. That's not what the communion in God is about. To be saved through God means that you, as the one that is consciously choosing, says there is no other Savior but God. However, that lives through me choosing to be responsible for myself. That's how God really saves. He saves when you're willfully choosing to commune through surrender instead of control. He saves when you're willfully choosing to show up for something other than this reality that you think you need, because you're so scared of what's going to happen if you don't have it. None of us, and this is the truth, very simple truth, none of us ever go without. Not really. And if we do, we have inherited that very specific challenge because at some point we have denied that is a very simple truth, that we never go without. There's always someone. I've been homeless. I've gone without food and water, but was that really true? No, I wasn't necessarily homeless. I lived in a car. I had a roof over my head. I did sleep outside some, but I could go somewhere if I wanted to. I did have a place to get food if I wanted to. There are places. I could get water if I wanted to. Again, and that homelessness was a choice. I want to be very clear on that. Speaking from someone that's been there, it's a choice. everyone has the capacity to receive some form of assistance. Everyone. But most that are in that position are on drugs. I was on drugs. So to me, having access to drugs was much better than having to worry about how to make money and how to keep a job and how to pay for a responsible life. The drugs were easier. That's why I was homeless. We always have support. We are in a position because we have chosen to be there. Even if it's unconscious, we're there because it's designed that way. We're never helpless. We're never really without. I mean, look around you right now. I assure that if you're here, if you're on YouTube, then you've got a place to live, or at least a place that you can be with the roof over your head. You've probably got food in your belly or a place where you can go get food. You've got access to water. You've got a family or friends. You've got people around you. You're not going without. So why are you afraid to go without? Where's that fear really coming from? Because it's not true. Oh, I just looked up, you guys. It's 3:36 at 55% battery. Speaking of, sign from God. So God is reaffirming that you're never going to go without. That's your true frequency of attraction. Everything you're always cared for. And that's the one thing that we have, I guess you could say, as a societal psyche, we have gotten away from. 36999. Love it. Love it. So if we would not initiate war, there would be no war. If we would not initiate hate, there would be no hate. Everyone has a choice. And if you came into a family line with war, thank you, Omkar. If we came into a family line of war, it's because we have not been responsible with our anger and our aggression. But if you're not directly in the war right now, if you're not in that, if you're not a part of that, don't attach to it. Don't place your attention there. Your nervous system is already sensing what's happening. The best way that you can care for that, morning, Becca, the best way that you can care for that is to be attentive to your own inner resentment, anger, and aggression. Just be aware from it. Don't act from it. You don't have to prove yourself. You don't have to prove your anger. Just accept that it moves through you. Good mottling. I thought that was an Australian slang until I realized you probably mistyped it. Good mottling to you, my dear. I don't know, maybe it is. So if you're not in the midst of that, then don't place yourself in the midst of it. I invite everyone this week to surrender at least one thing to God. And by that, I mean you don't keep trying to force and control it. You don't keep trying to hold on to it. Maybe it's a habit. Maybe you need to take some time away from scrolling every day. Maybe you need to look at, are you getting out? Are you moving your body? Are you being attentive to your body's needs? If not, focus on that. Step away from your phone. Are you stepping into conversations with people that are serving to just simply make you feel like you're important? Do you step into those conversations because you would much rather be doing that than taking responsible, accountable action for yourself? If so, step away. Surrender it. Let whatever outcome come, but stop trying to control it. For me, my biggest one has been surrendering the outcome with my business, surrendering the outcome with my clients, surrendering the outcome with money. And instead, I've started looking at, okay, if I am a conduit for God, if I'm a clear channel for Christ, what what is God asking? What is being asked of me? Well, I love communicating. I love sharing. I love showing up and being in communion with others. So that's why I'm here. So instead of me doing that because I feel like I have to, in order for me to get something out of it, now it's just it's a service. I'm returning back to that. I did that at the beginning, but that was also a little bit of manipulation because I thought that if I did it like that, then eventually I would get something out of it. So that's not happening anymore. So I'm here and I'm serving as a conduit for God. I'm just simply serving and I'm sharing what I have learned so that it can support others. And I do it freely, openly, and with love. I don't mind spending hours here because to me, time is more than just money. What am I doing with my time? How much of your time goes to aimless activities? When here, this share, this communion, this is impactful. This is transformative. This is life-changing. And if you choose to consistently show up in an application that is acting that way, instead of unconscious and aimless and just like going about your day and doing whatever you want to do, but not really knowing why you're doing it or what you're doing, or even having an awareness of like you're forgetting things, right? You forget things because you're not attentive and aware. You're not present. So you think of it, and then because you're so used to, I know we're all so used to putting it off, like, oh, I'll do that in a few minutes. If that thought passes through and my awareness captures it, I can do it now. I don't need to wait. What is it that's keeping me from doing it? Is there literally like a concrete block in front of me that I just can't go beyond? Or is it just my need to always put off to tomorrow what I could do right now? Just because I don't want to be responsible, just because I want to be lazy, just because my pride has me thinking that I've got more important things to do, or my fear has me thinking that I can't do it at all. So I will share with you some real life things that have been happening for me as I've surrendered to God in this way. And again, for those that are joining, this conversation is not religious. Okay. So what I have discovered is how beautiful everything is every day. Good evening. Hello and welcome. When I wake up in the morning, I do not have a sense of urgency to get something done. I wake up, I'm with my body. Sometimes I still reach for my phone. I check in with my group or I check in with my clients, but I am on a consistent path to dedicate myself to being with my body fully first. So that's in practice. I'm surrendering the need to check in with others before I check in with myself. I've also discovered that I do not have worry. I don't worry about anything. Now, there was a part of me that used to think I didn't worry, but that was years ago when I was also numb to feeling. And in truth, I would say that I don't worry about things, but my nervous system was an absolute wreck. I would just like react to the simplest things. My nervous system was always on the verge of a breakdown. And so it would not, I would act as if everything was fine. I'm not worried about anything. I don't care what people say. But as soon as someone said something the wrong way, that triggered that part of me in my nervous system that was holding on to the memory from when I was like 5 years old and I got in trouble and I got whipped by a belt, and that tone, that attitude, what I perceived as an attitude, I thought like that inner child, my nervous system perceived it as coming at me again. So I immediately wanted to defend myself. I wanted to react. And that's the opposite of worry right there. So my life was a consistent unfolding of reactive moments. It was always happening. Or I felt anxious, or I felt depressed. I wasn't actually depressed or anxious. I was dysregulated. And the regulation happens again through conscious active attention. Can you simply be present and observe without reaction? Can you observe every reaction with an awareness of where it's coming from and why it's there? Not because you have to, but because you simply have the capacity to. And existing daily with experiences that used to trigger me, they don't. I'm not recycling them in my mind. I'm not returning to this phantom conversation where I'm attempting to defend myself. I'm not going into the conversations in my mind and talking to my mom or my dad or someone else and bickering about it. Where does my attention and awareness go? Thanks to God. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for this beautiful life. Or I surrender to God. If anything does begin to show up, I surrender it. Most importantly, paying attention to how I speak when nobody else is around. So speaking to Bruiser, speaking to my fur baby, it's very easy to get caught up in those archetypal mother tones of, it's okay, baby. What's wrong? Are you okay? That talk might seem very very surface. It might seem innocent, but that is some nuanced, deeper, embedded worry. That's nuanced. It needs something. I need to know he's okay. I need to know that he's safe. I need to know that he's healthy. My words might seem innocent, but deep down, there's need. Not a need that's been met, but a need that's still trying to be met. So peace through a prosperous relationship with God means that I don't talk that way anymore. I don't feel like I need a confirmation that he's going to be okay. I live in the confirmation that he is exactly where he's supposed to be and everything is exactly perfect, because whenever he moves on, whenever he passes on, just like anyone in this life, it is predetermined. But I feel we have a choice as to how we move into that predetermination, because we have so many possible outcomes. We're all going to move on. Do you want it to be an unconscious action of fear, or do you want it to be a conscious recognition of acceptance? Because I feel that conscious recognition of acceptance returns us straight back into God. I feel like the other is what keeps us trapped in that the realm where we're consistently recycling ourselves back into the reality, where that part of our soul that quote unquote disconnected through fear is stuck. It's recycling, it's looping, and it comes back in through the karmic line. So the line of karma is just choice. It's beliefs and choices, belief systems and choices. So if we exit through the belief that we are afraid of death, then we're not aware on a deeper level of what that relationship with that moment really is. If we really are afraid, then we haven't rekindled that communion with God, because fear is driving the moment of death, not acceptance. And even leading up to that moment, maybe a lot of people surrender on death's door, which is beautiful. But even leading up to that moment, how much of your life are you trying to prevent death? Trying to prevent aging, trying to prevent sickness, and everything that leads up to those two predetermined types of control. The underlying factor of that is the fear of both, which then leads to a deeper relationship with both. If you're afraid of aging, you're going to be obsessed with aging. If you're afraid of getting sick, you're going to be obsessed with sickness. It becomes a part of you because it's all you focus on, and it's the way you choose to live your life. And so guess what your body represents? The obsession with it. So if you want to be free from sickness, you stop trying to control being sick. Just let go. Sickness only exists because your cells are dysregulated through time. Rekindle your relationship with regulation. Learn what it's like to live in faith, surrender, and accountability, and you will never experience sickness a day in your life. I haven't been sick in years. It's not a part of my reality. I know it never will be. I don't have that. It's not a factor. That's no longer an outcome. Even my aging process has begun to diminish, and I'm starting to witness my body showing up differently in time. Not because I'm trying to prevent aging, but because I just don't worry about it anymore. Now it's just, how can I be in love with right now? How can I live my life to the best of my ability right now? Or not to the best of my ability. How can I live an accountable responsibility right now, which is to the height of my ability? And I used to believe that I had some untapped potential out there. Like if I could just do the next, if I could read the next book, if I could attend the next class, then I could somehow get something that was going to show me something of myself. And if I could just retain more information, then I would know, I would understand, I would have the answers. That's my untapped potential. And one of my mentors said it so beautifully, like, your untapped potential isn't out there. It's untapped because you're not showing up like accountable and responsible every day. That's your potential dialed in, right? Your communion with God, where you have access to everything. That's being tapped in. Like, that's here every day. That's here right now. It's not out there. It's not in the world. And this is actually said to another sister in the group, but I that's what I pulled from it, was like, I don't need anything, right? And if I just accept that everything is like, I really am, I'm taken care of, I have everything that I need. And if I want to experience more, then I have to let go of whatever it is I think I want in order for that to happen. So I also have to understand where my blockages to receive more exist. I used to be afraid to ask money or to ask the monetary worth, shall we say, the monetary exchange for what was really taking place. So therein lies the self-pleasing tendencies, the self-sacrifice, the martyrdom. So when I began to understand that, now I'm not afraid to ask, because I'm not afraid of money. I'm not afraid of not making enough. I'm not afraid of asking enough. I don't look at what other people offer and get offended by it. I used to believe that thousands of dollars for things was way too much money. But because I saw thousands of dollars as a lot of money. I identified with thousands of dollars in a very specific way. And now that I no longer identify with it in that way, it's not a lot of money. It's exactly whatever it is, and whatever it is perfect. And now, instead of me being resistant to agreeing to pay thousands of dollars, I am asking, the one place that I'm committed to now, like, I literally just walked away from a program where I had invested thousands, and now I'm investing in another one for thousands, because I'm playing in the realm of money not being scarce. I'm not saying jump around and commit, walk away. I'm not saying that. I recognized where that original commitment that was thousands of dollars was not aligned. And I accepted that. It's okay. No big deal. If I get the money, I don't. If I get the money, great. If I don't, great. No big deal. It's not a loss. It's going to come back to me no matter what. And so when I surrendered that, now I accept money differently. I don't see it as a loss. But the only way that started to appear was because the relationship with myself started to change. I started to understand who I am and my worth. And now money comes to me from God. It doesn't come to me through strategy, force, and control. So if I'm trying to strategize, I'm trying to figure out what I need to do to make money instead of just surrendering that, showing up, living authentically, knowing what that actually means, expressing myself authentically, understanding how that actually works, and sharing the wealth of wisdom that I carry from my own application, real world application. And then walking alongside others as they learn to do the same. And it's a beautiful, beautiful thing because then I'm showing up every day and I love it. I love this. I love being a servant. I love serving and I love doing it for something greater than myself, but not from people pleasing anymore. It's not about worrying about what other people are. I'm not doing this for other people. I'm doing this because I love it. And people just show up. They show up because they too recognize something there that they get to receive of themselves. As my mentors say, they don't do this, they don't do it for us. And I learned a major lesson there. I don't do this for other people. I'm just playing the game and inviting other people to show up and play with me. So with all of that being said, you guys, I invite you to rekindle your connection, to understand that every relationship that you have with everything in your life, it begins with the first image and the first belief and the first meaning you assigned to the father and the mother. And everything from that point on began to dictate and control your life. And so now it's about returning to the original source of the mother, father, child, and remembering who you are. But first you have to see who you are without being afraid, not trying to posture, not trying to make it seem like you're someone else. Like, are you ready and willing to be seen as who you really are? Like the type of person you are when somebody's not around, the thoughts that you have, the memories that you've been running from, the beliefs that you carry, because that's who you really are. Not, let's say really, but it's who you're living as. And to know who you are, you have to first see who you are. And we all at some, every part of us, or every one of us, we have a part of us that's afraid to be seen. We don't even realize how deep that goes. And our entire lives have been conditioned to be seen a certain way, dress a certain way, right? Dress a certain way, do your hair a certain way. Culture demands it in some sense. But there's a difference between living life carelessly and living life intentionally. Carelessly is like just wearing something and being like, oh, I don't care what people think. But deep down you do, because the wearing of it is actually rebellion against what people think. And then there's another way of just living intentionally where you are intentionally aware of every part of yourself that's showing up in that outfit. Like that outfit is just encasing a depth of awareness instead of it being an identification of parts of you that you're resisting. So yeah, does anybody have any questions or anything that they would like to drop in, or anything they would like further clarity on as we start to kind of come to the end of this? And, I would challenge everyone, if you're not in a space of connection, if you're not receiving through anyone, and I'll always invite this because it's one of the most impactful decisions you can make, aside from returning to your relationship with God, and that's to work with someone else, to like work with a group, a mentor, to allow a relational connection. Let me just, some of these, it'll block out some of the comments if there's spam happening. Hello and welcome from South Africa. South Africa. Right. And I agree. Yeah. But, even understanding like what wholesomeness means. But at the same time, I also want to, there's a nuance to what you're saying there when you say that wholesomeness is more important than money. I feel like even in that statement, there's a denial of the power of what money is as an extension of our own awareness. And so, and I want to just, it's an opportunity to teach and frame, and I'm not attacking what you said. So you don't have to change what you said. It's just a beautiful opportunity to show the power of a nuanced statement. That when we're coming into wholeness with ourselves, then we see that everything is equally a part of our experience, and that is coming into a balanced and harmonious relationship with ourselves. Should that be the most important choice that we agree to? Yes. Within that choice is the relationship we have with all things, because it is the relationship we have with ourselves. And money, and the relationship with money, is exceptionally important. And through a true, whole, complete relationship within ourselves, we have whole, complete relationships with our parents, whole, complete relationships with everyone. Then we have a whole, complete relationship with money, which means that money is an important factor in that relationship through us. And so the wholeness actually emphasizes how important all of our relationships are, and equally what type of importance we've placed on it, or what level of denial we have towards it. I used to say that money wasn't important. I used to say money didn't matter. Say money doesn't matter. It's not about the money. Doesn't matter. And a part of me knew what I meant. I meant that I'm more focused. Like, this would be in relation to working with people. I would say, look, I just want to have an opportunity for us to connect. The money's not important. It doesn't matter. Let's just figure out a way to work it out. I was also self-sacrificing myself in that declaration, because I was trying to please the other person more than respecting my own boundaries and my own energy in what that exchange would be. Because if a person is using money as an excuse, then there is something within themselves they're avoiding. I'm not saying that maybe the money isn't available. I'm saying that the opportunity to connect with money in that moment isn't missing. It's not that there's a lack of money, and I understand that now. There's just a lack of acceptance around the choice. So if, let's say, a person feels called to work with me, and they feel that they would be able to do that later because money's not available right now, then the way that we speak about it shows our actual relationship with the entire scenario to begin with. So if I say that, like, everything that you offer is like, if somebody came to me and said everything you offer is powerful and I love it, and I'm just like, I'm really excited, I want to work with you. I know that right now it's not necessarily aligned because the money's not available, but I know that God will present the money to me in divine timing, and I will show up and I will commit and work with you when that happens. That's a fluffy way of saying I'm afraid to commit. Instead of saying, or there is an option to say, you know what, right now my relationship with money is very imbalanced. There's a deeper part of me that does not feel safe in the choice. And so instead of just saying no, or instead of just saying yes, we fluff it up and we use words to, in essence, avoid a direct boundary of communication. And so instead of that person saying a direct yes or no, or instead of me saying a direct yes or no, we skirt around it, right? trying to make it work instead of recognizing where we are and the truth of where we are and just being honest within that. And my truth is that it's, you want to work with me in a mentorship, it's going to require a certain amount of money. Either if that's a yes for you, great. If it's a no for you, great. Either way, there needs to be a hard yes or a hard no. Doesn't mean I won't work with you. It means that when you commit, there needs to be that hard yes instead of, I don't know because of this, and this. That's not a commitment. That's an avoidance. And so that's what helped me really understand just even how I communicate about it. If a person is avoiding the full commitment and then I'm avoiding the avoidance of the full commitment, then I can say, oh, well, let me ease your mind. It's not, the money's not important. Let's just see what we can do. And that's a people pleasing mechanism through an avoidance of a boundary and an attempt to control the outcome. So just things like that might not seem like they're that important, but they are. So yeah, just understanding the subtle nuances of how we speak. It's not necessarily, like I tell those that I work with, it's not what I say, it's what you choose to do with what I say. And understanding that your words have more to them than just what you think you're presenting. That's the point. There is many layers because the belief holds many moments of meaning assignment and conceptualization. So that's why I spoke into it in the way that I did. So, all right, my loves, I really, really appreciate this. This has been a very, very beautiful exchange today. I appreciate everyone that decided to show up and decided to be present. If anyone, before I start to close this out, if anyone has anything they would like to share, if you have a question for me, like I said, or if you would like for me to speak into something with a little better clarity, please let me know before I wrap this up. And again, just as a reminder, I do have a free space where this type of communion is taking place. It's a year-long space, month to month. Well, might as well just say year-long because it's free. You're very welcome, my loves. There is a donation-based aspect of that space, like I said, where I come together with everyone twice a month and I hold a somatic experience where you have an opportunity to explore the depth of your nervous system and your memories in as far as we can, because it's a group setting. And this gives you an opportunity to be seen in the experience of yourself clearly. So you are required to attend one of those two so that you can have an in-person live experience. You can watch the second one replay. I do offer weekly assignments, at least 2 to 3 assignments out of the month in the donation-based space. And this is about accountability, you guys, because we have a relationship with accountability that isn't necessarily accountable and isn't exactly accepting. I don't believe many people realize just how much they go through their life unattentive and just in urgency, which means they read something, but they read beyond it. They read like quickly. They don't really take it in. They're not really present or slowing down. So they miss things. And then we don't follow simple guidance or rules or invitations because we think we know what we read, because we're in urgency and we're rushing and we're getting really quickly. We're trying to hurry up and get through it. And we miss so much. So what I'm offering for everyone is an opportunity to really see who you are, to explore this with others that are committed to doing the same, and giving you an opportunity to be in communion with your body and your nervous system in ways that you never have. I mean, this group is going to be different from, I would assure you, probably anything you've ever experienced. There's a reason for that. It's not, this is like, we're communicating as adults. Like, I'm not worried about your feelings. Your feelings are your responsibility, but I am holding the space with you to explore your feelings. I'm not trying to protect your feelings because I'm not also hurting you. I'm not attacking you. I'm offering a reflection of you and it's your job, your responsibility to learn how to handle relational reflection through conversation, communication, and exchanges in a healthy, supporting, and accepting way. And of course, we do this through the communion with God. So, this is a way to get to know who you are and to learn and to explore. So, there is a free space. You can join that, come in, be a part of that. However, if you come in and you're not a part of it, if you just like drop in and you never communicate, I'm just going to kick you out because what's the point? So please, if you make that choice, like join us and play the game and explore and have fun. It doesn't have to, it's not about seriousness, it's about responsibility. So the donation-based space is exactly that. You donate month to month, or for just 1 month or just 2 months, you donate what you feel that month is worth to you. So you choose what you feel that month is worth to you. After that, anything that you would like to do with me in terms of 3-month, 6-month, or 12-month mentorship, that is a very specific paid space. So that's for those that are ready to go all in and commit, and you will be working with me one-on-one every multiple days a week, pretty much every day of the week, and yeah, every day of the week, every month. So personal one, you have one-on-ones with me depending on the level of the mentorship. I will do one-on-ones with you pretty much every week. And you will always have access to me through WhatsApp. And we also have the school community where the donation-based goes deeper through. So WhatsApp and school are the two places the community gathers, and the meetings are through Zoom. So aside from on here, obviously I come on here and I do a lot of stuff for free. So that's there. If anyone is interested, I just highly invite you to give it a try. It's one thing to show up and talk about it. It's another thing to show up and act from within it. And your life will be irrevocably better if you make that choice. It's just going to transform in a multitude of ways. So I invite that in. All right. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for being here. I love you guys so much. I appreciate you so much. If this has served you in any way, please hit the like button. Please hit the subscribe button, and just be on the lookout for any of the upcoming lives, which will probably be in the next few days. I'll probably have another one coming through. So just be on the lookout for that. Okay. All right. Until next time.